Welcome back, Wasteland Wanderers. Today, I am sharing a confession that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the Great War. This is the story of the Frozen Pact, a secret alliance bunker hidden in the Alaskan mountains where American and Chinese scientists chose cooperation over mutual destruction. The lore begins now. I found a bunker in Alaska that flew both the American flag and the Chinese flag side by side, both pristine, both pre-war. If you think that sounds impossible, you are absolutely right. It should be impossible. Everything I learned in my years with the organization told me this could never exist. But it does. And what I discovered inside changed everything I thought I knew about the Great War. My name does not matter anymore. What matters is what I found. What matters is the truth I can no longer keep buried. For years, I served an organization that claimed to be the rightful government of America. I wore their uniform. I followed their orders. I believed their lies. But classified files have a way of revealing secrets that powerful people want forgotten. And some secrets are too dangerous to stay hidden. It started 6 months ago in Chicago. I was part of a data recovery operation, salvaging old government servers from a collapsed federal building. Standard procedure: extract the drives, catalog the contents, send everything up the chain of command. Except this time, something went wrong with the extraction. A corrupted file started bleeding data across my terminal. Fragments of classified documents, half-deleted mission reports, coordinates that should have been purged decades ago. Most of it was garbage, corrupted beyond recovery. But buried in the digital wreckage, I found a single intact file: Project Pangea. The name alone made my blood run cold. Pangea, the ancient supercontinent, a world before division, before borders, before nations tore themselves apart over oil and ideology. The file was marked with security clearances I had never seen before, classifications that predated the Great War itself. Someone in the old government had hidden this so deep that even the bombs could not destroy it completely. And what I read in those fragmented pages made me realize that everything, absolutely everything about the war was a lie. According to the documents, in 2076, 6 months before the bombs fell, elements within both the American and Chinese governments knew the war was inevitable, not suspected, knew. They had intercepted communications, decoded diplomatic cables, analyzed military buildup patterns. The math was simple and terrifying. Nuclear annihilation was not a possibility, it was a certainty. The only question was when. But here is where it gets strange. According to Project Pangea, a group of scientists from both nations refused to accept mutual destruction. They established secret communications through backchannels, using academic conferences and research symposiums as cover. Chinese physicists talking to American engineers, biologists from Beijing corresponding with geneticists from California. All of them sharing one desperate realization: that nationalism was about to murder the entire human race. They called themselves the Pact, not American, not Chinese, just human, and they decided to build a survival facility together, a place where the best minds from both civilizations could preserve knowledge, preserve humanity itself, regardless of which flag they saluted before the bombs dropped. The coordinates in the file pointed to Alaska, deep in the interior, far from Anchorage where the war had raged for over a decade, a mountain range that would hide the facility from orbital surveillance, from aerial reconnaissance, from anyone looking for secrets in the frozen north. The documents claimed the scientists diverted military resources, laundered equipment through fake research projects, used black budget programs to funnel supplies into the wilderness. 18 months. That is how long they had. 18 months to build a bunker that could survive the end of the world while both of their governments prepared to push the button. The audacity of it should have been impossible. The logistics alone would require cooperation at the highest levels, resources beyond anything a rogue science program could access, security clearances that did not officially exist, but the file contained construction manifests, supply chain records, shipping invoices signed by generals and ministers who officially hated each other but privately shared the same nightmare. They knew what was coming, and they decided that saving humanity mattered more than destroying their enemies. I should have reported the file immediately. That would have been protocol. That would have been my duty. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the tone of the documents, the way those scientists wrote about their work. They were not traitors. They were not cowards. They were terrified people trying to save something worth saving before the world burned. So I copied the file to a secure drive and deleted it from the system. I told my commanding officer the recovery operation found nothing useful, and I started planning a journey north, one that I knew might cost me everything. It took me 3 weeks to reach Alaska. 3 weeks of traveling through the wasteland, avoiding Brotherhood patrols, dodging raiders, keeping my power armor hidden and my real identity a secret. I told people I was a traitor, a scavenger, just another desperate survivor looking for salvage in the frozen wastes. No one questioned it. In the wasteland, everyone is running from something. The coordinates led me deep into the Alaskan interior, into mountain territory where the snow never melted and the wind cut through even reinforced armor. I followed old mining roads that had not seen vehicles in 200 years. I crossed glaciers that were slowly revealing secrets the ice had kept, hidden since the bombs fell. And then I saw it. A cave entrance, half concealed by a rock slide that looked natural but definitely was not. Someone had shaped that collapse to hide the opening, to make it look like just another geological feature in a mountain range full of them. But my scanner picked up metal behind the rocks. Massive amounts of metal. Vault-grade construction materials mixed with something else, something that read like Chinese military steel from the pre-war specifications. I cleared enough rocks to squeeze through. My helmet light revealed a tunnel, perfectly straight, drilled with precision equipment into the heart of the mountain. The walls were smooth, too smooth for natural formation. This was engineering, the kind that required industrial equipment and months of labor in complete secrecy. The tunnel descended for what felt like miles. My altimeter confirmed it. I was dropping below sea level into caverns that should not exist this far north, but they did exist. Someone had carved a cathedral into the frozen earth, a monument to cooperation in an age of hatred. And then I reached the entrance, the real entrance, a blast door that made vault tech engineering look primitive by comparison. It was massive, easily twice the size of a standard vault door, with hydraulic systems that combined American and Chinese design principles. But what stopped me cold were the 2 flags hanging on either side. The stars and stripes on the left, the red star of China on the right, both perfectly preserved, both maintained with obvious care, both honored equally. If you are still with me after hearing this, hit that like and subscribe button. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at those flags. My training screamed at me that this was enemy propaganda, Chinese deception, some elaborate trap designed to capture American personnel and extract classified information. But the dust on the floor told a different story. No one had been through this entrance in months, maybe years. The flags were not bait. They were a statement. The door had a control panel, dual input systems, one labeled in English, one in Mandarin, both requiring biometric authentication that I obviously did not have. I was about to try bypassing the security when the panel lit up on its own. A voice crackled through speakers I had not noticed, female, speaking accented English with occasional Chinese phrases mixed in naturally. Unknown contact detected. State your designation and purpose. I hesitated. What could I possibly say? That I was an organization defector carrying stolen classified files about a secret project that should not exist? That seemed like a fast way to get vaporized by automated defenses. I am a traveler, I said carefully. I found coordinates in old government files. Project Pangea, I came looking for answers. Silence. Then a different voice, male, older, speaking in clear English but with pronunciation that suggested Chinese was his. First language. You said Pangea. How did you find that name? Those files were supposed to be destroyed before the bombs fell. Corrupted data in Chicago, I answered honestly. A server cluster that survived the war. The encryption was damaged, fragments leaked through. More silence. I could hear discussion in the background, multiple voices arguing in both English and Mandarin. Then the first voice returned. You are alone? Yes. You are armed? Standard wasteland equipment. Nothing heavy. Remove your weapons. Place them on the ground. Step back 10 paces. If you are lying, the automated defenses will kill you before you can react. If you are telling the truth, you will be allowed entry for questioning. Choose wisely. I did as instructed. Plasma pistol, combat knife, 2 fragmentation grenades. I laid them on the cave floor and stepped back. Nothing happened for 30 seconds. Then, the massive door began to open, hydraulics hissing with pre-war precision, revealing an airlock chamber beyond. Enter. Keep your hands visible. Any aggressive movement will be your last. I walked into the airlock. The outer door sealed behind me with a sound like finality itself. Decontamination systems activated, scanning me for radiation, biological agents, tracking devices. The process was thorough, more advanced than anything the organization had access to. Whoever built this place had combined the best of both civilizations. The inner door opened, and I stepped into the impossible. The bunker was enormous, not vault tech enormous, something else entirely. The main chamber was the size of a cathedral, carved from solid rock and reinforced with structural supports that mixed American Y-beams with Chinese architectural principles. But what caught my attention was the community. People, hundreds of them, living their lives in a society that should not exist. Children playing games that mixed baseball with Chinese stick fighting. Adults speaking in fluid bilingual conversations, switching between English and Mandarin mid-sentence without even noticing. Everyone wearing clothing that combined both cultures, American work shirts with Chinese characters embroidered on them, traditional Chinese jackets with American flag patches. An elderly woman approached me, flanked by 2 younger guards carrying weapons I recognized immediately. American plasma rifles with Chinese modifications, hybrid technology. They were not pointing them at me, but the message was clear. Behave or die. I am Elder Chen, the woman said. Her English was flawless, but her appearance suggested pure Chinese ancestry. I am one of the council members who govern this facility. You claim to have found files about Project Pangea. Tell me, what did those files say? I recounted everything. The back-channel communications, the shared realization of inevitable war, the decision to build a survival facility together. She listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. The files were correct, she said finally. We are the Pact, the descendants of scientists who chose humanity over nationalism. My grandfather was one of the original founders, a physicist from Beijing who believed science should unite, not divide. He corresponded with an American engineer named James Whitmore for 5 years before they decided to build this place. She gestured for me to follow. We walked through corridors lined with photographs, Chinese scientists standing beside American colleagues, group photos showing mixed teams working on complex machinery, documents in both languages, carefully preserved, telling the story of cooperation during an age of hatred. They knew the war was coming, Chen continued. Both governments had war game simulations, probability analyses, strategic assessments. The math was inescapable. By late 2075, the only question was timing, so our founders made a choice. They would build something that could survive, regardless of which side launched first. We entered a massive library, shelves filled with books in both English and Chinese, scientific journals, historical texts, literature from both civilizations, everything preserved with obsessive care. This is what they saved, Chen said softly. knowledge, not weapons, not gold, not power, just the accumulated wisdom of two great civilizations, preserved so that future generations could learn from past mistakes. But there was something she was not telling me. I could see it in the way she avoided certain corridors, the way the guards tensed when we passed specific doors. This place had secrets beyond the obvious. What happened when the bombs fell? I asked. The file mentioned both governments discovered the project before the war, that they sent teams to destroy it. Chen looked darkened. Follow me. She led me to a memorial hall. The walls were covered with names, hundreds of them, Chinese names, American names, all listed together without distinction. On October 23rd, 2077, at approximately 0800 hours Alaskan time, two military units arrived at this facility simultaneously. An American Special Forces team, designation classified, and a Chinese Special Operations Unit, also classified. Both had the same orders: destroy the facility, execute everyone inside as traitors. She pointed to a series of photographs, soldiers in American uniforms standing alongside soldiers in Chinese uniforms, all of them looking exhausted, dirty, carrying weapons but not pointing them at each other. They encountered each other outside the entrance, Chen said. Two elite units, trained to kill, sent by governments that hated each other. And then something remarkable happened. The Chinese commander recognized one of the American soldiers. They had fought against each other during the Battle of Anchorage in 2074. Both nearly died. Both respected the others as a professional soldier doing his duty. I stared at the photographs, trying to process what she was describing. The Chinese commander proposed a temporary cessation, just long enough to determine what this facility actually was. The American commander agreed. They approached the bunker together under a flag of temporary alliance, and the scientists inside told them the truth, showed them the research, explained the purpose. Chen grew quieter. The soldiers had a choice: follow their orders and destroy the last hope for preserving human knowledge, or recognize that the governments giving those orders were about to murder the entire world. 43 American soldiers and 37 Chinese Special Forces operators chose to defend the facility instead. What would you have done in their position? Follow orders and destroy the bunker, or join the scientists, knowing you would be branded a traitor by your own country? The automated defenses were designed to repel a single assault force, Chen continued, not coordinated teams attacking from multiple directions. The soldiers used their combined tactical knowledge to set up a defensive perimeter. When the nuclear exchange began at 0913, they were still out there, fighting off drones and automated systems that both governments had sent as insurance. She pointed to names on the memorial wall. 19 soldiers died defending this entrance, American and Chinese, buried side by side in a grave outside that we maintain to this day. Heroes who chose humanity over orders. We moved through more corridors. Chen showed me agricultural sections where they grew food using hydroponic systems that combined American and Chinese farming techniques. Engineering bays where fusion reactors hummed with power generated by technology neither nation could have developed alone. Medical facilities with research that preserved pre-war knowledge about treating radiation sickness, genetic damage, all the horrors that followed the bombs. We have 800 residents, Chen explained. Roughly equal distribution of American and Chinese ancestry, though at this point, most families are mixed. We speak both languages, celebrate both cultures, raise our children to understand that the old nations destroyed themselves through pride and paranoia. But I noticed something else: military equipment, advanced weapons, power armor that mixed American and Chinese designs, combat training facilities where young people practiced with hybrid weapon systems. You are not just preserving knowledge, I said. You are preparing for something. Chen stopped walking. Yes, for 200 years we have watched the wasteland, sent scouts to observe the factions fighting over scraps of the old world, the organization claiming to be America restored, the Brotherhood hoarding technology, the NCR trying to rebuild through expansion, all of them repeating the same mistakes. She led me to a war room. Maps covered the walls, showing every major faction, every settlement, every resource deposit across the former United States. Intelligence reports in both languages, documenting movements, analyzing strategies, predicting conflicts. We have been gathering information, Chen said, watching, waiting, trying to determine when the wasteland will be ready for what we can offer. And what is that? I asked. An alternative, she said simply, a proof that cooperation works better than conquest, that preserving knowledge matters more than controlling territory, that humanity's future does not have to repeat humanity's past. She pulled up a file on a computer terminal, detailed plans for establishing surface outposts, agricultural technology that could feed thousands, water purification systems, radiation treatment protocols, everything a dying world needed, developed in secret over 2 centuries. But we face a problem, Chen admitted. Every faction out there views cooperation as weakness. The organization would see us as mutant lovers and genetic traitors. The Brotherhood would want our technology. The NCR would want our resources. We emerge too soon, and we become just another target in the wasteland's endless wars. I understood then what they really were. Not just survivors, not just preservers of knowledge. They were an answer to a question the wasteland had not yet learned to ask. What if the old hatreds do not have to define the future? What if there is another way? If this story has kept you listening this far, and you want more of these dark confessions from the wasteland, hit that like button. It really motivates me to create similar Fallout lores. Chen led me deeper into the facility, past sections I had not seen yet. We descended another level, into areas that felt older, more heavily fortified. The air changed, cooler, drier, the kind of atmosphere you maintain when preserving something critical. There is something you need to understand, Chen said as we walked. The pact was not just about survival, it was about preventing the next war. Our founders believed that if they could preserve both civilizations equally, show that cooperation produces better results than conflict, then maybe, just maybe, the survivors would choose a different path. We entered a massive archive room. Climate-controlled storage units lined the walls, each one carefully labeled in both English and Chinese. Scientific research, medical data, agricultural techniques, everything humanity would need to rebuild without repeating the mistakes that led to annihilation. But they also knew something else, Chen continued. They knew that both governments would hunt survivors of this project forever. That is why they built defensive capabilities into this facility. Not to conquer, to protect what we preserve. She activated a terminal. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing military readiness reports that made my blood run cold. The pact had power armor, advanced weapons, trained soldiers, but unlike every other faction in the wasteland, their entire military doctrine was defensive. Protect the knowledge, avoid unnecessary conflict, never strike first. We have intercepted your organization's communications for decades, Chen said quietly. We know about the genocidal plans, the modified virus strains designed to kill anyone with radiation exposure. We know about the oil rig, about Raven Rock, about every attempt to murder the wasteland in the name of genetic purity. She looked at me directly. We know what you are, or rather, what you were. Your power armor signature matches organization specifications. Your equipment, your training, the way you move. You are a defector, are you not? I could have lied, should have lied, but something about this place, about Chen's direct gaze, made deception feel pointless. Yes, I admitted. I served for 12 years, believed the propaganda about restoring America, about saving humanity from mutation. Then I saw what they really planned, what they actually did to people who just wanted to survive. I could not be part of that anymore. Chen nodded slowly. Good, because what I am about to show you requires trust, and trust is something we rarely extend to outsiders. We descended another level. The architecture changed again. This section was newer, built within the last few decades rather than the original construction. Advanced laboratories filled with equipment that looked decades ahead of anything I had seen. Our scientists have not been idle, Chen explained. We continued research that the old world abandoned. Radiation treatment protocols that can reverse genetic damage, agricultural systems that can grow crops in contaminated soil, water purification technology that makes the organization's Project Purity look primitive. She opened a door to a laboratory where researchers in white coats worked with samples I recognized immediately. Green viscous liquid in sealed containment units, the virus, the thing that created supermutants that the organization wanted to weaponize for genocide. We acquired samples decades ago, Chen said, before I could ask, studying it, understanding it, not to create weapons, but to develop countermeasures. We have treatment protocols that can stabilize mutations, prevent the degradation of intelligence that most strains cause. We cannot reverse the process, but we can stop it from getting worse. If you could reverse the mutations caused by radiation and the virus, but it meant erasing 200 years of adaptation that helped people survive, would you do it? I stared at the research notes displayed on terminals. Breakthrough after breakthrough that could change everything for super mutants across the wasteland. Technology that could give them back what the virus took. And the Pact kept it hidden, waiting for the right moment to share it. Why not release this? I asked. Why not share the research? People are suffering out there. Mutations killing them slowly. Super mutants losing their minds to aggressive strains. You could help them. And become targets, Chen said flatly. Every faction would want this technology. The Brotherhood would kill us to control it. The organization would destroy it as a threat to their genetic purity ideology. The NCR would try to monopolize it for political advantage. We share too soon, and everything our founders built gets torn apart by the same greed that destroyed the old world. She had a point. I had seen enough faction politics to know she was right. Any advantage, any technology, any resource became a weapon in the wasteland's endless conflicts. We moved to another section, a genetics laboratory where researchers studied DNA samples, building comprehensive databases of genetic diversity across the Pact's population. We maintained strict breeding protocols, Chen explained. Not eugenics, nothing like the organization's twisted ideology, just careful management to prevent genetic bottlenecks. We track lineages, ensure healthy genetic diversity, preserve both American and Chinese genetic heritage equally. The laboratory walls displayed family trees going back 200 years. Every birth, every pairing, every generation carefully documented. It was meticulous, obsessive, and absolutely necessary for a population of only 800 people isolated from the outside world. Our children are raised bilingual from birth, Chen said, and I could hear the pride in her voice. They learn English and Mandarin simultaneously, study the histories of both nations, celebrate Thanksgiving and Chinese New Year, practice Christianity and Buddhism and atheism, whatever speaks to them. We preserve everything because we do not know what future generations will need. She led me to a classroom where children sat learning calculus in English while their teacher explained concepts using Chinese mathematical notation. The ease with which they switched between languages was remarkable. To them, it was not two separate cultures. It was just their culture, unified, whole. This is what we can offer the wasteland, Chen said. Not conquest, not ideology, just proof that cooperation works, that preserving knowledge from multiple sources makes everyone stronger, that the old hatreds do not have to poison the future. But then she showed me something else, a secure vault within the bunker, sealed behind blast doors that required 3 separate council members to open simultaneously. Chen, another elder I had not met, and a military officer whose insignia combined American and Chinese rank structures. Inside the vault were records, original documents from the final days before the war, communications between the scientists who founded the Pact, and something else, evidence. We know who started the Great War, Chen said quietly. We have documentation, intercepted communications, evidence that both governments suppressed. The Chinese launched first, but only because they detected American preparations for a preemptive strike that was scheduled for 0930 that same morning. She pulled up files on a secure terminal, military orders, launch protocols, evidence that both sides planned to strike first, that both believed preemption was their only chance for survival. The war was not started by one side. It was started by mutual paranoia and the certainty that the other would launch if given the chance. The truth is uglier than anyone admits, Chen said. Both nations murdered the world. Both governments chose annihilation over compromise, and both populations paid the price for their leaders' pride. I thought about the organization's propaganda, the stories about Chinese aggression, about communist evil, about righteous American retaliation, all of it simplified, all of it incomplete. The real story was mutual insanity. Our founders preserved this evidence, Chen continued, not to assign blame. Blame is pointless when everyone is dead, but to remind future generations what happens when pride matters more than survival. We left the vault and returned to the main levels. Chen took me to residential areas where families lived in apartments that mixed American and Chinese design aesthetics, kitchen equipment from both cultures, art on the walls showing landscapes from California and Beijing, children's toys that combined both traditions. We are not perfect, Chen admitted. We have arguments, disagreements. Some people want to emerge immediately and help the wasteland. Others believe we should wait another century until the factions destroy each other. We debate constantly about the right path forward. She stopped at a window overlooking the main chamber. Hundreds of people going about their lives, working, learning, living without the hatred that consumed the old world. But we agree on one thing, Chen said. We will not become like the factions out there. We will not conquer. We will not impose. We will wait until the wasteland is ready to listen. And when that day comes, we will show them there is another way. I spent 3 days in the Pax bunker. They let me move freely after the first day, once Chen vouched for me. I spoke with engineers maintaining fusion reactors that had run continuously for 200 years. I met farmers growing vegetables using techniques that combined American hydroponics with Chinese agricultural wisdom. I talked with military personnel who trained for defensive operations, but hoped they would never be needed. And I met the children. Kids who would never know the hatred that defined the old world, who spoke 2 languages as naturally as breathing, who studied both histories and learned to see the common humanity in both. They were the real proof that the pact worked, not the technology, not the preserved knowledge, the children who grew up believing cooperation was normal. On my 3rd day, Chen called me to her office. The council had made a decision about me. "You cannot stay," she said, not unkindly, but firmly. "Our population is carefully managed. Every birth, every addition changes the genetic equations, and you carry too much risk. The organization knows your identity. If they track you here, they will find us. I had expected this, understood it even, but it still hurt. However," Chen continued, "we are not sending you away empty-handed. We have a proposal." She handed me a small data storage device, pre-war technology, hardened against electromagnetic pulses and radiation. This contains agricultural techniques, water, purification protocols, basic medical knowledge, nothing that would make you a target, but enough to help communities survive. We want you to share it, carefully, quietly, help settlements become more self-sufficient. Why? I asked. Because the wasteland needs to reach a certain level of stability before we can emerge, Chen explained. Right now, everyone is too desperate, too willing to kill for scraps, but if settlements can feed themselves, purify their own water, treat basic illnesses, then maybe they will start thinking about cooperation instead of conquest. She placed a hand on my shoulder. "You asked why we do not share our research. This is how we share it. Slowly, carefully, through people like you who can distribute knowledge without revealing the source. You will be our agent in the wasteland, whether you know it or not." I understood then. I was not just a visitor. I was a test, If I could be trusted with limited knowledge, perhaps the wasteland was ready for more, and if I betrayed that trust, the pact would know they needed to wait longer. And if I am caught, I asked, if the organization captures me, interrogates me, then you die without revealing this location, Chen said bluntly. We have contingencies, security protocols. If you are captured, we will know, and we will relocate before they can find us. It was a cold calculation, but necessary. The pact had survived 200 years by being careful, by trusting slowly, by protecting what they built above all else. They gave me supplies for the journey back, radiation medication, purified water, food that would last weeks, and the data device, carefully encrypted with access codes only I would know. Chen walked me to the entrance personally, past the memorial wall where American and Chinese soldiers were honored equally. Before you go, she said, I want you to understand something. The pact is not hiding because we are afraid. We are waiting because we are patient. Our founders learned a lesson that the old world never understood. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait for the right moment. She handed me one more item, a small metal token, roughly the size of a bottle cap, with strange markings that combined English letters and Chinese characters. If you ever need to contact us, Chen explained, leave this token at specific coordinates. She downloaded the locations to my Pip-Boy, places our scouts check regularly. We will find you, but only use this if absolutely necessary. Every contact is a risk. I took the token, feeling its weight. It was heavier than it should be, not physically, but the responsibility it represented. One last question, I said. You mentioned both governments sent kill teams, but you also said some soldiers joined the pact. What happened to them? The ones who chose to defend this place? Chen smiled sadly. Come, I will show you. She led me to a section I had not visited yet, a residential area, but older. The apartments here had a different feel, more military, organized with the precision of people who had spent their lives following structure and discipline. An elderly man sat in a common area, reading a book in Chinese. He looked up as we approached, and I saw the scars, burns that could only come from plasma fire, an artificial eye that glowed faintly in the dim light, the weathered look of someone who had seen combat and survived. This is Commander Zhang, Chen introduced. He was part of the Chinese Special Forces unit that arrived on October 23, 2077. One of the 37 who chose to defend the bunker instead of destroying it. Zhang stood, moving with the careful precision of someone whose body had been rebuilt multiple times. He extended his hand, and I shook it. His grip was firm, confident, the handshake of a soldier who had made his choice and never regretted it. I was 24 years old, Zhang said in accented English. Special operations. Best of the best. My orders were to eliminate all personnel and plant demolition charges in the reactor core. Simple mission, but when I saw what they built here, what they were trying to preserve, I could not do it. He gestured to a photograph on the wall. A group of soldiers, American and Chinese, standing together covered in dirt and blood, weapons in hand, but not pointed at each other, pointed outward, defending something together. The American commander was a man named Captain Marcus Webb, Zhang continued. We had fought each other at Anchorage. I shot him, he shot me. We both nearly died, and 3 years later, we stood outside this bunker and decided that maybe we had been shooting the wrong targets all along. Could you forgive someone who once tried to kill you if you both realized you were fighting for the wrong reasons? 19 of us died in the first hour, Zhang said quietly. American and Chinese, fighting side by side against automated defenses that our own governments had deployed. The irony was not lost on us. We were dying to protect people our nations called traitors, while our nations murdered the world. He sat down slowly, age and old injuries making movement difficult. I am 93 years old now. I have lived my entire adult life in this bunker. Married a woman whose grandfather was one of the American scientists, had children who speak both languages and honor both cultures, and I have never regretted my choice. Chen put a hand on Zhang's shoulder. 14 of the original soldiers are still alive, Americans and Chinese who chose humanity over orders. They are the living proof that the pact works, that people can overcome hatred if they choose to. I thought about my own choice, defecting from the organization, abandoning the mission to restore America. The propaganda had called people like Zhang traitors and cowards. But looking at him now, seeing the life he had built, the family he had raised, the peace he had found, I understood something important. Betraying a corrupt system is not cowardice, it is courage. We returned to the main entrance. The massive door stood open, revealing the tunnel leading back to the frozen wasteland, back to the world of factions and fighting, of radiation and ruin, of people killing each other over scraps while believing they were rebuilding civilization. "What will you do?" Chen asked. "Now that you know we exist?" "Exactly what you asked," I said. "Share the knowledge, help settlements become stable, and wait for the day when the wasteland is ready to hear that there is another way. And if that day never comes," I thought about that, "then at least I will have helped some people survive. That matters, even if the bigger dream dies." Chen nodded. "Our founders believed the wasteland would need at least 200 years to exhaust itself, to try every failed ideology, every doomed faction, every attempt to restore the old nations. We are approaching that threshold now. Maybe your generation will be the one that is finally ready to listen." She walked me through the tunnel to the cave entrance. Sunlight filtered through the rocks I had moved to get in. The frozen wasteland waited beyond, harsh and unforgiving and familiar. "One more thing," Chen said. "You asked why we maintain the flags. Both of them. Why we honor both nations equally when both nations destroyed the world." I had wondered about that. It seemed contradictory, preserving the symbols of civilizations that had committed mutual suicide. "We honor them because they achieved great things," Chen explained. "Both nations contributed to human knowledge, to art, to science, to philosophy. Yes, they also unleashed nuclear holocaust, but we refuse to let their worst moment erase their best achievements. We preserve the good with the bad, so future generations can learn from both." It made sense. You could not understand the Great War without understanding what was lost, the potential that was destroyed, the future that both civilizations murdered in their final paranoid moments. "The flags remind us," Chen said, "that greatness and madness can coexist, that the same species that can build wonders can also destroy everything. That knowledge without wisdom leads to annihilation." She handed me back my weapons. "Be careful out there. The wasteland is not kind to people who believe in cooperation. You will be called naive, weak, idealistic. But remember what you saw here. Remember that it works, and keep believing that humanity can choose a better path." I stepped out of the cave, back into the wind and snow and radiation. Behind me, Chen sealed the entrance, replacing the rocks I had moved so carefully that no one would ever know they had been disturbed. The pact vanished back into the mountain, hidden once more, waiting patiently for the world to be ready. The journey back took longer than the journey north. I stopped at settlements, small communities struggling to survive. I shared the agricultural techniques Chen had given me, water purification methods, basic medical knowledge, nothing that would draw attention from major factions, but enough to help people grow a little more food, get a little cleaner water, treat a few more illnesses. And I watched how people reacted to help that came without strings attached. Some were suspicious, certain I wanted something in return. Others were grateful, but immediately started thinking about how to weaponize the knowledge against their neighbors. A few, just a few, asked if I could teach others, if I could help nearby settlements too. Those few gave me hope. I met a farmer in a struggling settlement who used the hydroponics information to grow crops in soil that should have been dead. He shared the harvest with his neighbors and taught them the technique. I met a doctor who used the water purification protocols to reduce illness in her community by 40% in 3 months. She trained others in nearby towns. I met a teacher who started teaching children both English and basic Mandarin, saying that knowledge of multiple languages opens minds to different perspectives. Her students learned faster, thought more critically, questioned instead of just accepting. Small changes, tiny ripples spreading outward, but they were real and they proved Chen was right. The wasteland could choose cooperation over conquest if given the right tools and enough time. I also saw the other side. I watched the organization execute a settlement for harboring ghouls, saw the Brotherhood confiscate pre-war technology from people who needed it to survive, witnessed NCR troops crush a community that refused to pay taxes to a government that offered them nothing in return. The old patterns repeating endlessly: conquest, control, ideological purity. Every faction believing their way was the only way, willing to kill anyone who disagreed. But now I knew the alternative existed. Hidden in the Alaskan mountains, 800 people were living proof that cooperation works, that preserving knowledge from multiple sources makes everyone stronger, that raising children to honor multiple traditions creates adults who can build instead of destroy. The pact was waiting, patient, careful, building their strength while the factions exhausted themselves fighting over the ashes of dead nations. And when the wasteland finally grew tired of endless war, when people finally asked if there might be another way, the pact would emerge with an answer. Not conquest, not ideology, just proof. Living, breathing, 200-year-old proof that humanity can choose differently. I carry Chen's data device wherever I go now. I share the knowledge carefully, quietly, always moving before major factions take notice. I am a ghost distributing seeds of cooperation in a wasteland addicted to conflict. Most of what I plant will die, but some will grow, and that is enough. Because I have seen the impossible. I have stood in a bunker where American and Chinese flags fly side by side, where children grow up speaking two languages and honoring two cultures, where the hatred that destroyed the world could not take root. I know the pact exists. I know cooperation works. I know there is another way, and someday, when the wasteland is finally ready, I will help bring that knowledge into the light, not through conquest, not through force, but through example, through patience, through the slow, careful work of showing people that the future does not have to repeat the past. The old world died because nations valued pride over survival. The new world is being born in the hearts of people who choose cooperation over conflict. The pact proved it is possible. Now, we just have to prove it can spread. When I left Alaska, Chen gave me a message to carry. A message for when the wasteland is ready to listen. I think about those words every day, and I will share them with you now. When the wasteland is ready to stop fighting over the ashes of dead nations, we will be waiting to help rebuild. Not as Americans, not as Chinese, just as humans who remember that we are all one species, sharing one poisoned world, with one last chance to choose differently. The flags we fly are not about nations. They are about remembering what we lost, honoring what we preserved, and building something new from the best of both. We are the pact, we are patient, and we are humanity's last, best hope for a future without hatred. If this confession meant something to you, leave a like. It is the only way I know you liked the video. I do not know if I will live to see the pact emerge from hiding. I do not know if the wasteland will ever be ready to accept what they offer, but I know I saw something impossible become real. And that gives me hope that other impossible things might be possible too. The frozen mountains of Alaska hide a secret that could change everything. Two flags flying side by side, two cultures preserved equally, 800 people proving every single day that cooperation works better than conquest. And someday, when the time is right, the world will know their story. Until then, I keep moving, keep sharing, keep planting seeds of cooperation in the wasteland's poisoned soil. Most will die, but some will grow, and eventually, enough will grow that people will start asking questions, start wondering if there might be another way, start looking for alternatives to endless war. And when they do, I will point them north, to the mountains, to the impossible bunker where the future is, already alive. The pact is waiting, and so am I.